It all starts on a dark city street, where a dim light highlights a pretty quirky convenience store. Inside, a guy stretches to grab something from the cold shelf, surrounded by unicorn plushies. Soon enough, he pulls out a bottle of cola, gripping it tight. Questioning his drink choice for a second, the MC quickly agrees with himself that it was definitely the right move. As the bottle shakes slightly, the dark liquid swirls inside. Suddenly, a system voice praises his excellent choice, while flashes of intense showdowns cross his mind. The young guy's eyes glaze over, completely locked into the tension of the moment. With zero shame, he calls himself a total dopamine junkie, always chasing the next big thrill. But to make sense of this bizarre situation and the intense vibe on the floor, we have to rewind exactly 1 hour. Flashing back to the recent past, his hands are flying across the keyboard as he repeats his own catchphrase. Chilling in his dark room with his headset on, the MC doubles down on his extreme addiction to heavy thrills. His shelf is packed with random hyperfixations, ranging from pop idols to classic strategy books. Plus, extreme sports gear is scattered all over his screen, proving he's basically tried it all. Even skydiving was part of his routine, just to get that extra hit of adrenaline. But the hype wore off, and his hands hesitate on the keyboard as he realizes the boredom is creeping back in. It was right around this slump that he decided to pick up online gaming, noticing his boredom just wouldn't quit. Taking off his headset and staring at the monitor, the guy decides to give it one more shot, admitting games are his last resort. On his phone screen, 31 missed calls remind him of how much he's ghosted his mom while gaming. Even with that weighing on his conscience, the young dude admits that old habits die hard. Looking for crazier and crazier stimuli, the MC dives headfirst into the virtual chaos of the game. With so much free time on his hands, he ended up mastering every type of survival game set in a dumpster fire world. During these intense matches, one specific title gave him the biggest adrenaline rush possible. The background showed a lone character facing the ruins of a totally wrecked city. To explain the deep lore, the basic system chimes in on how the intro story works. It all kicked off when a meteor crashed and threw planet Earth into a brutal, unforgiving ice age. Thanks to that massive disaster, most of humanity met a really tragic game over. However, after a long period of suffering and freezing temps, a warmer interglacial phase finally hit the planet. Jumping on this second chance, the survivors teamed up to build safe zones and keep civilization kicking. At least, that's what the official game lore tells newbies starting their run. The global map shows a total of 9 distinct areas, named after random stuff like cola, beer, and unicorn. Sitting at his setup, the MC mutters that his usual strategic route wasn't panning out either. The game lets you pick any zone to start, except for the knife zone, taking control of a 10-year-old kid. Whoever manages to survive the early game has to grind hard for the real end of the world, until they turn 20 years old. The reason for the rush is that on the exact day the player hits that milestone age, the chaos comes back with a vengeance. It's at that critical moment that the second apocalypse drops on the city, wrecking everything they rebuilt. That initial grind and childhood phase is considered just phase 1 of the whole challenge. The real entertainment kicks in right after, and the guy decides he's going to speedrun the boring part this time. When the second catastrophic event officially launches, the only goal left is pure survival. The player is forced to deal with ruthless invaders from other areas, proving why your starting zone matters so much. After all, the harder the difficulty of your virtual spawn point, the crazier the hazards. On the flip side, starting in an absolute nightmare zone lets your character bag the best possible stats. On top of that, the locals in the hidden knife zone are known for being totally unhinged. If those enemies spot someone from an easier area, they'll try to eliminate the survivor on sight. It was exactly these wild and chaotic elements that kept the MC hooked on the experience for so long. But with his hands hovering over the keys, he knows even this extended fun is wrapping up today. Hitting the key with purpose, the young guy lets out a sigh of relief for finally finishing his massive grind. The screen hits him with the achievement for 100%ing all routes, including the terrifying hidden knife zone. Staying quiet for a sec, he just stares at the monitor, soaking in the weight of that solo victory. Grabbing his phone, the guy gets hyped again and decides it's time to drop all that knowledge on the internet. Wasting zero time, the player starts uploading his ultimate strategy guide for the hardest server area. Since he always wanted more people to vibe with the game, he made a hobby out of posting tutorials on the community forums. A few seconds later, his phone buzzes, showing someone was already reacting to his new post. A user named Home Defender comments first, and the MC sarcastically notes how fast this dude always replies. Reading the message, he realizes the guy is capping, doubting it's even possible to start in an area where everyone is so toxic. Usually he'd just delete the hate comments, but he decides to let this cheap shot slide for now. Then more notifications roll in asking how he even managed to unlock that impossible secret area. He replies that it's easy, you just have to clear the endings for all the other zones, but he just gets flamed in return. The forum trolls keep mocking him, calling him delusional for thinking anyone could actually pull that off. Silence fills the dark room as the guy reads the replies, feeling his patience totally running out. Completely annoyed by how clueless these people are, he announces he's blocking the troll and cuts the chat. On the other side of the screen, the blocked user is fuming, realizing he got shut down so fast. Ignoring the complaints that his guides are way too hardcore, the MC keeps scrolling on his phone. Luckily, he spots a thank you message, which makes him feel like his hard work wasn't a total waste. The young guy figures that at least a few people can actually use his insane tips as he leans back in his chair. Tired of the drama, he gets up from his desk, deciding he's done beefing with anonymous internet randoms for the day. Taking one last look at the game's start screen, the guy declares he is officially graduating from this adventure. Out on the bright city street, he walks around feeling kind of empty and aimless after dropping his main hobby. Strolling with his hands in his pockets, the young guy notices his dopamine levels are already crashing hard. The need for a fresh thrill hits him out of nowhere, making him wonder how he's going to cure this boredom. Right then, his eyes widen as he spots something completely out of place in the middle of a normal street. Standing in front of a super well-lit convenience store, he finds it super weird that this place is even here. Looking through the glass at the shelves, the guy notices flawless rows of candy, soda, beer, and chicken. Seeing kitchen knives right next to unicorn plushies, he realizes with a shock that it's identical to a safe zone. Barely believing it, the young guy mutters that it'd be impossible for a game without a Korean localization to do a collab like this. Snapping a pic of the spot, he figures it's more likely the owner is just a massive fanboy who decorated it on purpose. Dropping the photo in the community, the guy decides to give the place some free clout, sending the address to that home defender dude who instantly asked for it in the comments. At the counter, the cashier asks if he's grabbing the cola, snapping the young guy out of his thoughts so he nods quickly. Staring at the bottle, the MC wonders if he was being judged for taking a million pics just to buy one cheap thing. But that silly worry quickly fades, replaced by a weird vibe that something in there was seriously off. Noticing the label didn't have a barcode, he gets startled by shadowy figures popping up right behind him out of nowhere. In the blink of an eye, a system prompt announces that it was an excellent choice as everything around him violently shatters. When he finally opens his eyes, the guy realizes he's flat on the ground in a freezing alley, totally disoriented. Getting up, he notices his own white clothes and his tiny body size, completely shell-shocked by this surreal mess. Realizing he's a kid again, the boy is hyped to see he just unlocked a pure brand new source of adrenaline. Right next to him, another blonde kid starts grumbling, super salty about ending up in this chaotic, unbearable world. Recognizing the snowy background, the blonde kid immediately guesses the MC also picked the cola at the store. Squinting at the guy with suspicion, he asks if his internet username happens to be Couch Potato. Remembering the toxic forum posts, the blonde kid mocks him, asking if his partner in misery is some kind of social reject. Complaining about how internet people have zero manners these days, he demands to know the MC's handle. Caught totally off guard by the direct question, the dark-haired kid just points at himself in a moment of pure hesitation. In his head, the MC realizes it would be an absolute disaster to drop his real identity right in front of the dude he just blocked. Seeing no other way to dodge the drama, he decides he's gonna have to borrow a certain user's name for now. Looking the blonde kid dead in the eye, the boy claims with zero chill that his forum handle is Home Defender. The blonde kid calls Cap immediately, saying it's obviously a lame lie, but soon they both start analyzing their insane situation. Panicking after confirming they are actually inside the game, the blonde kid tweaks out, demanding to know why that user would leak such a cursed address. The MC connects the dots, figuring the blocked dude leaked the store's location to the whole internet out of pure spite. Watching his new sidekick freak out, he realizes the poor guy only checked out the store for fun and got dragged into this world by mistake. But if his theory was right, the situation was way worse than it looked. Thinking about the bottle, the guy figures a bunch of other people who grabbed secret items probably got dumped in this nightmare too. Thinking about the other map zones, he predicts the future is packed with heavy showdowns against players from different areas. The worst part was knowing that running into other real people would definitely end in some brutal survival of the fittest fights. Shaking his head to ditch the paranoia, he decides to focus on the present, since staying in the game is top priority right now. Calming down, the blonde kid excitedly suggests they try accessing normal game features to get a head start. The kid starts yapping non-stop about buying magic items, spending stat points, and opening hologram menus in the middle of nowhere. Super hyped about it, the blonde yells system commands at the top of his lungs, expecting something epic to pop up. A super awkward silence hits the alley, proving absolutely nothing happened after all that screaming. Refusing to give up, the kid tries shouting every cliché gamer command he can think of to force the system to wake up. Dropping to his knees on the freezing ground, he accepts the sad reality that there are no magic cheat codes in this brutal world. Furious about being dumped in a danger zone inside a weak kid's body, the blonde vents about the total lack of starter gear. Listening to the kid call himself a saint, the MC lets out an exhausted sigh, slightly regretting trolling so hard on the internet. With zero energy left to complain, the sidekick just sits on the floor, accepting that crying about it won't fix anything. Curious about what's next, the blonde kid asks how far the MC made it in the cola zone during his playthroughs. Internally, the guy flexes on the fact that he's already cleared every possible and impossible route in this chaotic universe. Since he's literally the only player on Earth with that insane flex, he figures he should make up a more average run to avoid suspicion. Lying smoothly, he replies that he only made it to the unicorn area, leaving his partner totally shook. Barely believing it, the blonde claps back that barely anyone made it past that brutal stage without relying on overpowered internet guides. Putting the pieces together, he figures the legendary pro player must be in this world too, wondering where he spawned. Seeing how much this kid knows about his fame, the MC finds it super weird that a hater knows his lore that well. Remembering how fast that user commented on his posts, the guy starts suspecting there might not be that much hate after all. With his cheeks turning red, the blonde kid accidentally blurts out that he's a massive simp for the famous player, confirming he tracked every single forum tip. Looking away in pure embarrassment from the sudden confession, the boy mutters shyly, leaving the MC kind of confused. But that shy phase doesn't even last a second before shifting into a look of pure rage and bottled-up fury. Glaring like a menace, he snaps that he saw exactly what went down in the latest community update. Exploding with anger, the blonde screams that he was unfairly blocked, even though he was a day one fan who liked every post the second it dropped. Stunned by the plot twist, the MC realizes the kid was just heartbroken over getting randomly blocked by his idol. Cursing his terrible luck, the guy sighs internally, realizing he's stuck with his most dramatic fanboy ever. Watching his partner's genuine loyalty, the young guy feels a tiny bit bad and decides the kid seems somewhat decent deep down. Changing the subject to regain his cool, the blonde kid takes a deep breath and pivots back to the survival plan they need to cook up. Looking super confident, the MC announces he already has a very specific route in mind to beat this first major boss phase. Keeping it real, he boldly states he's going to fake being the illegitimate son of one of the top bosses in the region. In his head, he reviews the strategy he personally invented, which involves sweet-talking the brutal commander running these frozen plains. That guy is famous for ruling with an iron fist, being the top dog of this ruthless military faction. Hearing this suicide mission, the blonde freaks out, calling his partner delusional for trying to finesse the most dangerous guy on the map. Trying to talk some sense into him, he warns that real life is way more unpredictable than some game code. Brushing off the cowardly warning, the MC just turns his back and tells his partner to go find his own route if he's that scared. Offended by the call-out, the blonde runs after him, arguing it wasn't fear, just common sense about the plan being totally busted. Waving his hands nervously, the kid insists that one single slip-up with the lie would mean a fatal game over from the warlord. Relentless with the trolling, the MC keeps calling his fanboy a coward while the poor kid desperately tries to defend himself. Walking through the snow, the young guy actually totally understands why his unlucky partner is so paranoid. The heavy reality of waking up trapped in a chaotic universe inside defenseless kids' bodies is just way too wild for a normal person to process. Looking at the dead landscape around them, he agrees that being terrified 24/7 in a world where danger is everywhere is the only sane reaction. Despite that clear logic and all the obvious red flags, a completely different vibe starts bubbling up in the young guy's chest. Feeling his own heartbeat, the boy realizes with awe that fear isn't even on his radar in this high-stakes moment. The rush of living the chaos in real life is filling the void, bringing a dangerous hype he thought he'd never feel again. Flashing a confident smirk, he says the risks are all on him and that losing his life on this crazy bet doesn't faze him at all. In his adrenaline-addicted brain, the guy quickly theorizes that getting a bad ending here might just be the log-out button to go home. The blonde kid turns ghost pale at that cold logic, stuttering about how insane it is to just accept a tragic end in the snow. Riding the high, the MC declares that the outcome doesn't matter as long as the pure thrill keeps rolling. Absolutely terrified by his partner's lack of sanity, the sidekick lets out a silent scream of despair over having to deal with this madness. Swallowing his panic, the kid pulls it together, asking what his role even is, since this sketchy plan sounds like a solo mission. Analyzing the partner's question, the MC agrees the strat is solo, and says he knows the perfect spot for him to go. He casually asks if the sidekick has done his military service yet, which makes the guy tweak out, reminding him he just turned 20 years old. Processing that, the young guy thinks to himself that this totally explains why he acts like a spoiled brat. Confused by the vibe, the fanboy asks why skipping the draft is a flex in this chaotic moment. The MC just stares at him with a creepy level of chill, already knowing exactly what to do with the kid. Without over-explaining, he starts walking down the snowy street straight toward the center of the village. Their footsteps echo in the dead silence as they walk up to a massive stone building. Stopping dead in his tracks in front of the place, the boy freezes, realizing they are about to literally enlist in the army. Totally losing it over this plot twist, the partner demands to know why they're hitting up a military base out of nowhere. Super calmly, the MC reminds him they're orphans in this server and need a game plan so they don't starve to death. Dropping some basic lore, he explains the world got split into 9 safe zones to protect humanity from wild threats. It all started during the first Ice Age apocalypse, triggered by a massive meteor that flipped everyone's lives upside down. Out of that mess came all sorts of unknown hazards that forced the survivors to adapt or get wiped off the map. Thanks to that massive disaster, the Unicorn region built their bases up in the sky to dodge ground-level threats. Following the same survival logic, the Beer Zone decided to dip and relocate entirely under. Aside from those 2 outliers, all the other regions have to constantly fight off outside threats just to stay safe. Being straight up, the young guy warns that if they join the military now, they'll definitely get dragged into some heavy crossfire. The game system stated that kids under 10 years old could already run these brutal missions if they enlisted at the base. But the harsh truth is they don't have a home to go back to or adults to carry them in these freezing streets. On that note, the MC points out that enlisting guarantees a roof and food, plus it teaches them how to use weapons to survive late game. Letting out a massive sigh of defeat, the fanboy accepts that staying alive is top priority, even if he hates the idea. Super frustrated, he leans on the wall, asking how he's supposed to survive in an army where he doesn't speak a word of English. Only then does the young guy remember the minor detail, that this survival game never got an official Korean patch. To play the game and write his guides back in the day, he had to speedrun learning the foreign language all by himself. While they wait outside the giant hall, the snow keeps dumping relentlessly on the military village roofs. Handing a sealed envelope over the counter, the MC finishes the paperwork to get them both into the squad. Walking back, he tells his partner the forms are submitted, and now they just have to wait for the officers to call them up. Since this hardcore zone accepted super young kids as soldiers, getting approved was basically a guaranteed drop rate. Clueless about the forms, the kid starts whining again about the lack of an auto-translate system to make their lives easier. Trying to chill out his stressed partner, the guy promises he already filled out all his stats on the sheet with 0 issues. The only tip he gives the kid is to just agree with everything by saying, "Yes sir," loud and clear whenever someone talks to him. Taking advantage of the downtime while an officer yells in the background, the MC decides to point out a super weird detail about the place. Checking out the crowd in the lobby, he notices they seem to be the only ones speaking Korean in this massive mob. Even with this huge language barrier, none of the NPCs seem to care at all about the foreign language echoing in the room. The guy figures it's just part of the world building, where a bunch of nationalities got mashed together after the global disaster hit. Using this as a glitch, he tells the kid to write down crucial info in Korean so the locals can't read their secret strats. Switching to a serious tone, the MC warns that enlisting means they have to split up for a good chunk of time. Shocked by the sudden news, the fanboy panics, realizing he'll be totally solo until the fake air plan actually works. Dropping some friendly banter, the young guy reminds him he sounded like an army vet with all his complaining earlier. Suggesting they treat this split up like a fun second draft, he tries to break the ice for the visibly terrified kid. Horrified by that cold logic, the boy grumbles that things would be way easier as a duo, but is quickly told the strat requires an instant split. However, the thought of acting as a duo makes the MC realize a massive wild card regarding other real players in the city. Thinking about the squad that also grabbed the secret item at the store, he wonders how many players might be wandering the map. Predicting future drama with outsiders, the young guy decides he needs to set up a safe code of conduct for when they bump into these randoms. Getting back on track, he just tells his partner to memorize the instructions and try not to be a useless carry during boot camp. Turning his back on the scared sidekick, the guy doubles down that from here on out, they're playing strictly on solo mode. Seeing his only carry walk away, the fanboy screams in outrage, demanding one last vital piece of info before they officially part ways. Super tilted by the suspense, he demands to know what weird foreign name the MC put on his registration form. Without stopping his walk, the young guy yells back that he'll find out his new handle as soon as the officer does roll call. Meanwhile, a soldier in charge of reading the roster stares at the sheet, thinking the kid's chosen name is completely unhinged. Yelling the ridiculous name across the training yard, the boy instantly pays the price for the prank, getting smacked on the head for causing a scene. Watching the sun set over the frozen horizon, the MC feels a bit relieved knowing the early game registration worked perfectly. With Phase 1 locked in, he dips from the military crowd, heading toward the next crucial location in the freezing cold. Arriving at a sketchy area piled with old wooden crates, he decides it's the exact time to dig up a forgotten grave. Standing in front of the basic marker in the dirt, he feels bad about the tough luck of the woman who held the key item for his disguise. Remembering the official lore, he knows the current boss of this base originally spawned in a totally different area. During his crazy run to get here, the man almost caught a game over in a fight, but got clutch saved at the absolute last second. The kind soul who saved the future warlord's life was actually the woman buried right here in the snow, named Luna. The romance between the two survivors leveled up fast, resulting in a pregnancy full of hype about what to name the baby. But the old base leader offered him full control of the server if the outsider agreed to ditch his family and marry his daughter. Blinded by some toxic ambition, the man swore he'd come back for his ex and the kid as soon as he secured the official leadership spot. Analyzing how cold and selfish that move was, the MC knows for a fact that the powerful military boss was never going to keep that promise. Mostly because shortly after being brutally dumped in the snow, the poor woman simply vanished from the city without a trace. His hyper-focused thoughts get cut off instantly by heavy footsteps, shattering the dead silence of the makeshift graveyard. Acting fast to avoid aggro, he ducks behind a structure while the patrol guards walk away looking for trouble. Leaning on the rough wall, the guy takes a deep breath, knowing getting caught snooping here would totally wreck his whole strat. This heavy military surveillance made sense, since the commander himself was always sending troops to sweep every corner for his forgotten family. For years on end, the armed squads tore up the streets and alleys looking for any clue about where his ex and abandoned kid went. The boy's eyes show a mix of pity and pure logic as he looks at the harsh reality of this forgotten map sector. All that relentless searching by the leader was pointless from day one, because he had zero clue his old partner had already passed away ages ago. Sending a mental apology for crashing her final resting place, the young guy steps up to the grave knowing it's his only path to victory. At the end of the day, the crucial item needed to fake his bloodline and lock in the ultimate heir status was buried deep in this dirt. As soon as his hands hit the frozen topsoil of the grave, he feels something completely unexpected and pulls back, slightly shook by the texture. Grabbing a handful of loose dirt, the boy realizes the ground is way too soft for a hole that's supposed to be untouched for years. With his brain running at max speed, he kneels in the snow, seriously wondering if another player had already looted this spot before him. Running through the lore, the MC remembers a massive plague wiped out the slums where the woman used to live. During that dark era, all the healthy locals bounced from the zone ASAP to dodge the terrifying virus. But since she was an ex-combat medic, she decided to stay solo, carrying the sick players who had nowhere else to go. It didn't take long for her to catch the debuff too, and the surviving patients built this grave in her honor. The dead silence of the cold night and the falling snow heavily boost the sad vibes of the abandoned cemetery. Assessing the mess, the young guy admits the girl was a total MVP, but it sucks she picked the most infected spot to hide from her ex. Digging through the soft dirt, he figures the plague at least kept randoms away, making it hard even for the military boss to raid the area. Soon enough, the boy's eyes widen as he sees the wooden coffin is already busted open, confirming his worst fears. Checking out the remains at the bottom, he instantly spots that the commander's high-tier drop is completely gone. He remembers his original guide specifically stated you have to loot this exact item to give to the base boss later. You strictly need those famous military dog tags to trigger the event that proves you're the VIP's legit heir. Looking at the skeleton, the guy admits he kind of expected this the second he felt the soft dirt, but it's still super annoying. He deduces he got beaten to the punch, and some tryhard looted his spot using his own top-tier strats. Even with this massive nerf, the MC thinks this just makes his playthrough way more interesting. Showing zero panic, he announces there's nothing to sweat about, because he knows exactly where the real drop is hidden. He explains he deliberately kept this detail out of his public guide, confirming the true item left by the Lord was never the dog tags. The young guy leans closer to the bones to reveal the real secret hidden in this sketchy spot. With a bit of elbow grease, he pries the closed skeletal hand open to free what she was protecting so fiercely. The revealed loot is a moonstone ring, crafted from a shard of the exact same meteor that wiped the planet. Holding the ring, he notes that normally the tags are enough, but the other player's griefing forced him to use his backup strat. Checking out the piece, the boy realizes she tried to protect the rare jewelry even from grave robbers digging around her plot. In silence, he drops a genuine apology for interrupting her eternal sleep and for being about to impersonate her lost kid. To make up for this massive lie, the young guy promises he'll actually try to act like a real son if he secures the successor slot. Staring at the glowing ring, the guy makes one final vow to try hard and not catch a game over on this wild run. Suddenly, a blinding light erupts from the magic item, as a prompt announces he's getting closer to the secrets of the apocalypse. Startled by the flashbang, the MC panics, terrified the crazy light show is going to pull aggro from the guards. Right then, an alert grants him partial system access, and asks if he wants to claim an exclusive perk for 100%ing the game. Laser focused on the updates, he wonders about the terms for this loot and notices the chat feature, thinking about pinging other players. Not wanting to waste time, the boy decides to pop the secret perk first before digging into the other unlocked menus. The interface flashes his OG username and an endless list of available titles, proving he inherited all his legacy achievements. Reading the stats, he finds out the legacy titles give crazy buffs, like instantly maxing out trust with NPCs who knew the deceased woman. Since he's facing the military boss first thing in the morning, the young guy equips the friend of the deceased title to ensure a smooth intro. Thinking about the buff, the guy realizes other players who didn't 100 the game are basically doing a naked level 1 run. Sliding the gem onto his finger, he questions what the devs were smoking to drop them here, until he spots a weird glitch on the screen. The glowing notification bluntly confirms the friendly buff from his new title has already locked onto a nearby target. The MC is totally lost, not getting how the skill triggered if there wasn't a single soul in aggro range. Scanning the empty graveyard, he remembers the prompt only pops up in front of an NPC who knew the woman from the lore. Out of nowhere, a bony hand shoots up and grabs the boy's ankle with a crazy grip right out of the cough. Keeping his cool, the young guy just kicks dirt back into the hole, deciding to ignore the cursed glitch since the skeleton stopped moving. Walking through the streets, the boy shifts focus and wonders if the tryhard who jacked the tags already pulled up to the military base. Super sarcastic, he sighs about having to ruin the run of such a dedicated player who is just following his flawless guides. When he reaches the massive gates of the official mansion, the guards instantly block him, asking what his deal is. Standing his ground, the guy replies confidently that he's got premium intel on the family the commander has been grinding to find. Hearing that, the soldier looks shook and mutters that the young master was right about a random showing up, putting the MC on high alert. Without dropping any lore drops, the guard just tells the kid to follow him inside, saying this master was already waiting for him. Walking down the luxury hallway with the guard, the MC realizes his run just took a totally unscripted turn. Heading up the grand stairs, he tries to figure out who this young master is and why he's spawn camping other players. Stepping into the fancy room, the boy is greeted politely by a friendly voice coming from the center of the hall. Looking at the two random kids in the room, he gets hit with a direct question confirming he was also an Isekai survivor. Using the system, the MC scans the weird sidekick's profile while the guy tells him to stop acting so sus. The friendly kid explains that the Korean language is basically their secret code, since the universe never got an official translation. Not looking impressed by the basic trivia, the guy kills the friendly vibe, telling him he already knew that. Analyzing their chill attitude, the young guy figures they aren't aggro, but demands to know why they were camping for other survivors. The dark-haired kid laughs at the rush, suggesting they save the heavy lore questions for after introductions. Right then, the MC hesitates at the word introduction, predicting this little roleplay session was going to be a headache. He quickly realizes these two clowns don't have basic system access yet, so they can't actually check his real stats. Holding onto this massive advantage, the boy decides to double down on his bluff, claiming with total confidence that his online name was fake. Hearing the lie, the well-dressed kid steps up, getting ready to flex his own famous internet identity. Acting all high and mighty, the brat thumps his chest and proudly announces that he is the legendary player Dopamine Junkie. The real MC is totally speechless at the sheer audacity, staring at the imposter, unable to believe the garbage he just heard. Taking the boy's silence as pure shock, the faker brags that his legendary reputation precedes him in this server. The imposter keeps hyping himself up while the actual guide creator just stares, trying to process this insane level of cap. Riding high on his fake achievements, the liar tries to bully the boy, asking if he was planning to steal his god-tier identity. Cringing out of his mind, the MC is horrified, wondering if he actually sounded this arrogant online back in the day. Judging the boy's basic outfit, the fake legend assumes he's just a random troll and rudely orders him to get lost. Waving the stolen military tags, the kid swears this secret quest can't even start without this crucial key item. Out of nowhere, the imposter hears the boy sarcastically praise him for having the reckless guts to even show his face here. Changing his tune, the rich kid figures the newbie might be useful as a carry, and offers him a minion slot in his super team. The sidekick next to him bows respectfully, proving he's already accepted being the total simp for this fake strategist. Looking down, the MC finally sees the big picture and the real reason these lost players grouped up here. He figures the noobs who can't handle the danger get wiped out early before they even try to start a questline. But the smart ones rushed here to try and steal the air roll, turning the mansion into a massive PvP arena. Turning his back, the imposter spills his greedy plan to become the ultimate warlord, demanding top-tier minions to hard carry him. The fake junkie demands an instant yes, but the MC shoots him down cold, saying he'd never team up with a clown like him. Flashing a terrifying glare, the guy orders them to fetch the base boss, absolutely furious at seeing his strat stolen by a scrub. Staring out the luxury window, the MC vows to expose the fraud and show him how a real pro runs this route. With the sound of footsteps, the young guy calmly turns toward the hall doors. In his head, he thinks it's awesome that the sidekick actually ran off to fetch the base commander. Right then, the redhead tries to get his attention to chat. The boy guesses the fanboy also wanted to try the Lost Sun route, but just ended up tagging along with the imposter for the free carry. However, the redhead shoots down that theory, saying he spawned in the exact same spot as the fake player from day one. Finding that spawn RNG pretty wild, the MC notices the guy answers questions way better than he expected. So he asks why the guy is acting like a pet for the fake lord, instead of just enlisting in the army to grind. Giving off a super dark vibe, the fanboy admits he had absolutely zero desire to go back to military life after already doing his time. Checking out the redhead's build, the young guy totally gets why the faker kept someone so submissive and buff around as a bodyguard. He asks if the guy holds any grudge against the guide creator for causing this whole dumpster fire, and gets a sad nod. But a second later, the redhead flips his mood and claims deep down he was actually super thankful for all of it. Clenching his fists, he admits that getting to play this survival game side by side with his idol made his heart race. Totally hyped, the fan screams about how much he worshipped the famous player, making the MC sigh, realizing this dude was also unhinged. The partner keeps defending that following the only guy capable of beating the game was the most big brain move, leaving the young guy speechless. Assessing the vibe, the MC agrees that obeying the imposter would theoretically be the smartest play to survive the apocalypse. Blown away by this insane blind loyalty, the young guy decides to ask one last question before making his move. Looking down at the redhead, he asks if the guy was seriously a hardcore ride-or-die fan of the famous player. With his eyes glowing with pride, the partner confirms his ultimate devotion without even blinking. Right then, the MC calmly announces the boy passed the vibe check, leaving the fan totally confused. Before the redhead can ask what's up, the loud slam of the massive doors opening echoes through the hall. The intimidating base commander finally steps into the room, flanked by his loyal right-hand man. The second the Lord makes eye contact with the MC, the system pings that the deceased friend title is active. The skills buff is actually doubled thanks to the secret ring, leaving the young guy pretty shook by the crazy stat boost. Completely locked onto the boy, the military boss closes the distance fast. Crouching next to the kid, the powerful man says in a nostalgic voice that he looks exactly like his old flame. Catching the system's move, the guy realizes the magic title did more than just boost charisma. It literally tweaked how NPCs saw his face. In the back of the room, the faker starts sweating bullets, sensing this cozy vibe was totally ruining his master plan. Desperate to steal back the spotlight, the fake son yells to show his proof, while the MC just asks the commander to look at his hand. Slowly opening his palm, the young guy flexes the glowing ring and states with absolute confidence that this was his mom's keepsake. In dead silence, the military lord stares at the tiny jewel with a mix of pure shock and sadness. Super salty about it, the faker demands to know what that dusty ring is even supposed to mean. Shutting down the yelling, the boss turns his head and checks the liar about his claim to be the real heir. Radiating terrifying boss energy, the leader states that his partner's precious jewelry is in someone else's hands. Panicking hard, the fake kid accuses his rival of hacking and theft, swearing the military tags are the only real proof. With zero patience left, the commander tells the punk to shut his mouth, paralyzing the imposter with fear instantly. Adjusting his coat, the ruthless man warns he won't spare any kid who has the guts to lie straight to his face. The redhead watches the whole thing in shock, muttering that the internet guides promised a guaranteed win with just the stolen tags. Sweating buckets, the faker clenches his teeth, realizing his run is literally hanging by a thread. Desperate to figure out why his route failed, he turns to the MC, demanding to know who he really is. Totally losing his mind over the failed run, the kid screams asking for the newbie's true username. Right on cue, the system flashes that the imposter's route failed, making the boy realize in pure horror exactly who he was messing with. The panic peaks when a new alert drops, stating that eliminated players get permanently deleted from the server without mercy. Following the boss's orders, the guard grabs the liar by the arm while the MC watches the arrest with absolute zero chill. Suddenly, a prompt confirms the stolen items were transferred back to his inventory, surprising the real strategist. The commander orders them to drag the intruder to the quest room, making the young guy recall a hardcore game rule. The item transfer alert only triggers inside safe zones when one player permabans another from the server. Processing these brutal consequences, the guy realizes with some stress that failing a quest actually means a permanent game over. He guesses that getting wiped out here might just log you out to the real world, but he isn't 100% sure yet. Bawling his eyes out, the fanboy cries for his fake idol getting dragged away, while the MC tells him to chill out. Cutting to the chase, the young guy bluntly says that useless fraud was never the legend the redhead looked up to. Super confused, the partner tries to process the info, remembering all the toxic stuff he put up with while following the liar blindly. With a chill look, the MC finally drops his secret identity, asking how his biggest fanboy didn't recognize him sooner. The redhead is totally mind-blown by the plot twist, and the young guy explains it was impossible to tell without the system active. To prove he wasn't capping, he unhides his official profile so the kid can read his legit stats. Seeing the legendary titles floating on the screen, the boy's eyes bug out and he literally can't form a single normal sentence. Flexing a bit, the guy says he'd never throw a run this early using a strategy guide he built from scratch. Feeling the weight of his own stupidity, the fan bows aggressively, apologizing a million times for doubting his ultimate hero. Internally, the poor guy is dying of cringe, remembering he even thought the faker looked weak but still fell for the scam. Clinging to his idol's legs while sobbing, the redhead screams that he always knew the truth, but gets told to shut up before he ruins the stealth. Playing it safe, the young guy warns that not every player in this server is going to be friendly if they leak his famous handle. To keep the stealth run solid, he orders the redhead to only call him by the lost son's name, getting rapid nods of total obedience. As a bribe, the strategist promises to carry the kid if he cooperates, making the partner salute with crazy hype. Satisfied with having a minion, the MC figures managing this fanboy will be way easier than doing real military drills. Walking toward safety, he thinks about how he needs backup, since his 10-year-old hitbox severely limits his stats. Squeezing the secret gem in his hand, he preps mentally for the insane upcoming phases of this massive raid. Out of nowhere, a glowing system screen pops up, unlocking a brand new lore quest about the apocalypse. The guy clearly remembers that every safe zone had one exclusive special item forged from the crashed meteors. Now he realizes that snagging that ultra-rare artifact is step one to cracking the code behind the global wipe. With that, the boy figures the system only dropped the perks because he literally touched the meteor ring. Looking ahead, he calculates that grinding for the rest of the rare gear will get him closer to solving the massive lore mystery. Before, he thought the only goal was dodging the second disaster, but now deep diving the lore is basically mandatory. With a serious glint in his eye, the young guy accepts that surviving this chaotic reality is way more hardcore than the games. Switching gears, he tells his partner to lie to the Lord, claiming he was totally brainwashed by the faker. The MC warns that the boss will be super sus of the redhead at first, but promises to introduce him to a useful player soon. Keeping the chat going, the redhead explains the fake used the online handle bastard and was carrying him. The MC tells his partner to just play along if he ever crosses paths with that toxic dude again. Hesitating a bit, the fan tries to point out a major detail about this whole mess to his idol. He guesses that the arrogant dude also got dragged into this weird server at the convenience store. Confused by how sure the kid is, the strategist immediately asks where he got that premium intel. The answer is that everyone got super curious after the store address dropped online and rushed over, including the redhead himself. That's when he ran into the faker, chatted a bit, and found out his toxic forum handle. At the time, the dude was buying a weapon specifically because he read the survival guide posted by the MC. After all, the tips broke down exactly how to survive that insanely difficult hidden zone. The partner reports he saw the guy grab a sharp item and head straight for the checkout. Processing the intel, the young guy concludes the imposter's spawn point really was the dreaded knife zone. Feeling a tiny bit guilty, he regrets basically sending the guy to the worst possible server by doxing the address online. Changing topics, the redhead asks if his idol also got teleported after seeing the cashier assault the liar. He casually mentions the employee bashed the guy's head with a barcode scanner, and that he himself got sucked in while leaving. Totally caught off guard, the MC is relieved he didn't catch a random beatdown before waking up in the snow. Intrigued by the lore, the young guy wonders why the NPC cashier randomly went aggro on a customer like that. Deciding to put a pin in it for now, he reminds his partner to play the victim if the guards interrogate him. Right then, the heavy sound of the wooden doors swinging open cuts off the survivor's chat. A soldier steps into the hall announcing that the military lord is summoning the dark-haired kid for dinner. The strategist agrees instantly and gets ready for the boss-level encounter with the massive base leader. Pulling up to the luxury dining room, he finds the powerful man sitting solo at the head of the giant table. Internally, the boy notes that his special titles buff is insanely OP, since the boss actually waited for him patiently. The commander casually mentions he sent the redhead fanboy to rest because he looked like he was on 1 HP. Looking super depressed, the man admits he spent years grinding the slums looking for his old flame with zero luck. Desperate for lore drops, he asks where the woman was hiding this whole time. Keeping a straight face, the MC reveals she was in the graveyard behind the city's slums. The military boss connects the dots instantly, gripping his glass super hard as he realizes his old partner's tragic game over. Swallowed by guilt for failing his quest, the Lord decides he has to make up for ditching her some. Without missing a beat, he declares he's making the boy his sole successor, handing him the keys to the whole server. Exactly at that moment, a glowing system window confirms the strat worked and offers a choice of 3 different rewards. The guy knows that securing the illegitimate sun slot was just the tutorial for a way bigger master plan. To actually hit the max level of power in this region, he needs to execute the 3 rewards strat flawlessly. Paying attention, the commander tells the kid to just drop his biggest wish right now. Playing the ultimate good boy role, the kid just asks the man to visit his mom's grave as much as possible. In reality, this move was pure min-maxing to boost his succession points every time the boss hit up the graveyard. The Lord gladly takes the quest, promising he'll definitely do it now that he knows her exact spawn point. With Wish 1 checked off, the system updates saying he has 2 more pulls left on his magic card. Trying to make the vibe a little less depressing, the military leader pauses the heavy talk. He suggests it'd be way better to smash this massive feast before getting back to the serious lore. The table is stacked with crazy good food, flexing just how rich the zone leader's lifestyle actually is. The young guy is hyped to see real food, noticing normal potatoes and meat instead of disgusting monster drops. Acting humble, the man apologizes for the rushed basic meal and tells the kid to go crazy and eat whatever. Feeling like the aggro is finally gone, the strategist mentally celebrates not throwing the run yet. Totally chill now, he grabs a piece of bread thinking he might actually get a second of peace in this dumpster fire. But the second he touches the food, he gets jump-scared by something totally glitched happening in front of him. Absolutely shook, the MC watches the food literally vanish from his hand before he can even take a bite. Shaking a little, he tries to hide the massive error 404 happening in his brain right now. Meanwhile, the commander spots something weird on the kid's hand and calls him out on it. The young guy instantly goes into panic mode, terrified his god-tier disguise just got exposed right at the dinner table. To his massive relief, the Lord just sounds amazed that the cut on the boy's skin completely vanished. Staring at his own palm, the strategist realizes the injury actually deleted itself without a trace. He scans the clean skin super carefully, trying to reverse engineer the wild logic of this virtual server. Confirming the instant heal, the guy connects the dots with the bread that got snapped out of existence. The boy figures the food was instantly consumed by his hitbox to top up his missing HP. Thinking back on the last few intense hours in the freezing city, he notes the vibe was definitely off from the start. Even while sprinting through the snow and dealing with crazy stress, his hunger meter hasn't dropped once since he spawned. The original game engine worked exactly like this, removing the hunger stat and turning all food into instant health potions. It's super obvious these virtual mechanics got hard-coded straight into his new physical body. With this op buff, he realizes he doesn't need to waste time grinding for daily meals, just saving food to heal damage. Since this skill wasn't in his exclusive loot pool, he guesses every other real player got this basic passive too. Deciding to limit test this auto-heal later, the guy snaps his attention back to the boss across from him. His brain is overclocking to cook up a solid excuse for why his wound magically despawned. But the military commander tells the kid he doesn't need to drop any lore to explain what just happened. Super chill, the leader reveals his old partner also had the exact same op healing hacks. The man admits that over the years, a ton of kids pulled up to the base claiming to be his lost kid. He flexes that he debunked every single scammer instantly because he knew all his ex's hidden stats. Feeling a massive wave of relief at how easy this was, the young guy thanks the boss for trusting him. Sending back some dad energy, the Lord thanks the boy for surviving the insane grind to get here safely. Keeping his poker face, the MC is internally screaming because this whole superpower lore makes zero sense. As the guy who literally wrote the meta, he knew for a fact no NPC in the game had healing magic. This massive rule break makes the strategist suspect the dead woman might have been an IRL player just like him. Even though he's stoked his cover is safe, he knows he just stumbled into a massive, cursed mystery. The origin of the glowing ring and that woman's real role in the server wipe just got way more shady. He knows that figuring out if she had hacks or knew the endgame secrets is mandatory if he wants to survive. With 10,000 questions blasting his brain, the young guy wants to interrogate the Lord, but decides playing it cool is the meta right now. Weighing his options, the MC knows he needs to lock in his spot first, since being too greedy now could pull unwanted aggro. The kid breaks the awkward dinner silence, getting the leader's attention across the table. Playing it cool, he says he has a big favor to ask, getting an instant green light from the boss to drop it. Being straight up, the boy asks to share a meal with other kids his age at least once a month. Right then, the system pings the success of the strat, confirming reward number 2 is officially secured. The commander looks genuinely shocked by the random request and asks why he'd want to eat with randoms. Flexing his empathy stat, the kid claims there are a ton of orphans taking damage on the streets from hunger and the freezing cold. He justifies his wish by saying he got super lucky bagging a hot meal and just wants to carry the others a bit. But in his head, the strategist knows this is just a total cap to cover his real master plan. Since only real players auto-absorb food, throwing a pizza party is the ultimate radar to spot who else is from his world. Plus, if he bumps into the convenience store squad, keeping them all in check would be way easier. By maxing out his rep with the local kids, he'll also secure future teammates, making the strat an absolute W. All this relies 100% on the military leader giving the okay, and he's currently looking super deep in thought. The boy gets the hesitation, knowing the request sounds like a weird political PR stunt, but it wasn't impossible. Seeing the delay, the young guy hits him with the classic emotional blackmail, looking down and saying he'd be happy just drinking water if it costs too much. To make it worse, the kid adds that he used to eat snow off the street so his HP wouldn't hit 0 since it was free, absolutely stunning the Lord. Setting his cup down gently, he asks the man to please consider it. Flashing the ultimate innocent puppy eyes, the kid stutters, looks up, and calls the commander dad for the first time. The emotional crit of that single word hits the military leader like a truck, instantly smashing any hesitation he had left. Unable to say no, the man caves immediately, promising to set up the feast next month while the system confirms the final reward is locked. Later that night, the MC is already chilling in a premium bedroom after the boss told him to log off for the day. Tucked under the covers, the young guy says goodnight to the commander. However, the military guy stops near the door, clearly hesitating before leaving the room. Staring at the moon through the window, the man breaks the silence, guessing the boy has a ton of questions about the family lore. Mostly about why he married another player, or why he completely threw on protecting his old flame like he promised. Sounding super heavy, the Lord admits he wants to drop all the lore, but thinks the kid is too low-level to process it right now. Patting the kid on the head, he promises to leak all the secrets when the time is right. The strategist just nods obediently and stays quiet, holding his roleplay character perfectly. Satisfied with the vibe, the man says the chat is over for now and turns to leave. But right before stepping out, he softly drops that the kid can officially call him dad from now on. Alone in the dark room, the MC gets hyped, realizing the dad's strat was insanely op. He knows it'll take a massive grind for the military leader to actually see him as a legit son, but he plans to spam this buff whenever he needs it. After all, running this chaotic base in the endgame is going to take some serious political clout and resources. Suddenly, a glowing screen pops up announcing that more than 2 players have unlocked the system, launching the global chat. The guy jumps out of bed totally mind-blown that someone else in this server actually managed to unlock the advanced menus. Reading the invite to the public lobby, he starts guessing that looting the meteor items is the universal master key for this unlock. Driven by pure curiosity, the guy hits the button to join the chat and scout out who this other try-hard survivor is. Instantly, the screen announces the user Dopamine Junkie just logged into the voice channel. A second later, a terrifyingly familiar name pops into the system, leaving the strategist absolutely shook. A chill runs down his spine as he confirms the other player is the exact same psycho he blocked on the forum. Thinking fast, he remembers this dangerous dude spawned straight into the cursed knife area. That specific region is famous for being an absolute troll cave, where ruthless PvP runs the streets 24/7. To bag the magic artifact in that hellhole, a player is forced to run a route where they wipe out every single local on the map. Even though it sounds like a literal impossible run for a level 1 noob, there was a brutal cheese strat using the zone's own meteor dagger. But using that one-shot weapon didn't exactly make it an easy carry, since the guide creator himself sweated buckets clearing it. Seeing that this dude survived that nightmare mode and still unlocked the system proves he's not just some random casual. On the floating screen, the rival drops a message asking if he's really the guy behind the famous handle. Sitting on the bed, the kid is torn on what to ask first, desperately wanting the lore on his rival's run. Playing it cool, he replies and casually confirms his identity in the chat. But the dude replies in all caps, swearing he's going to hunt him down and absolutely zero to death him without mercy. Fast forward to the next morning, the sun lights up the snow stacked on the military village roofs. A guard opens the bedroom door calling for the young master, saying the base director is looking for him. The kid turns around, surprised by the random early morning summons. Keeping his VIP energy, he just asks where he needs to go to meet this officer. Right then, his brain flashes back to last night, remembering how hard he tried to chill out the psycho in the chat. He explained he wasn't the admin who caused this glitch, and dropped some premium tips on how food auto-heals in this game. But even after getting free cheat codes, the dude stayed incredibly salty, swearing to end the strategist the second he survives. The MC knows surviving the knife zone hell requires insane motivation, so he just accepted being the target of all that rage. To push the rival to not catch a game over, he leaked his own spawn at the cola zone and basically dared him to survive and pull up for revenge. Walking through the yard behind the guard, the kid kind of regrets that the angry enemy hasn't sent a single ping since. Arriving at the archery range, the guy guesses his rival must be drowning in mob aggro when a voice welcomes him. A classy guy with glasses and gray hair throws some shade about the amount of kids pretending to be the heir lately. The boy instantly recognizes the arrogant vibe of the base director, staring him down with zero chill. Since this officer was ridiculously smart and perceptive, the young guy always poisoned him in past runs just to make his route easier. With absolutely no respect, the man warns the kid he better show way more manners, even if he is the boss's biological drop. Hitting below the belt, he points out the only legit wife of the commander is Lady Daphne, reducing the MC to just a random bastard son. The kid realizes the guy's toxic personality is a one-to-one match with the game, but decides he won't delete him this time. Internally, the strategist remembers the director is also an orphan raised as a soldier, who covers his anxiety with insane combat stats. Despite the cold exterior, this lone wolf secretly just wants to build a home with wholesome family vibes. That distant dream of having a happy generational family is the officer's biggest emotional weak spot. Back in his messy past, a gentle hand reached out to him and literally changed the meta. The owner of that hand was Daphne, the beautiful daughter of the old commander, offering him a tissue being super nice. The young soldier was totally shook by the rich girl's kindness. At the time, the officer totally gaslit himself into thinking he only simped for her because of her high-tier status. So he bottled up his feelings, bitterly believing that building a happy family with her was just a garbage dream. To hide that he felt like he wasn't worthy of the boss's daughter, the military director became a total try-hard at his job. Keeping his true feelings totally stealth, the officer dedicated his life to protecting her server. But the peace of that quiet life got nuked the day the Great Lord randomly spawned into their lives. After that random encounter, the outsider named Hayden ended up marrying Daphne and taking the top spot at the base. After becoming the new leader's right-hand man, it didn't take long for the director to uncover the dark lore behind that sudden marriage. The hyped-up wedding was purely for political clout, with absolutely zero real feelings involved. Seeing the sadness on the girl's face, the officer was super salty watching his crush trapped in a totally empty contract. Looking the Lord dead in the eye, he claims he wouldn't interfere if she was happy, but calls out that the commander doesn't actually love her. Standing tall, the military guy demands they cancel that fake marriage immediately. The base boss casually accepts the weird compliment, but notes that all this sudden rebel energy is pretty sus. Focusing on his sidekick's insane talent, the leader asks why he's demanding a divorce before even asking for the commander's chair. The officer is totally stunned hearing the boss confirm there's zero romance between him and his wife. Looking totally zen, the man in charge leaks that he's just waiting for the day he can finally reunite with his real family. As soon as he passes the torch, the commander swears the old leader's daughter will be totally free from this burden too. Lost in that massive lore drop, the sidekick stammers, while the Lord uses the opening to ask one very direct question. Covering his face in a heavy shadow, the Lord totally flips the vibe and makes the room incredibly tense. The MC is shook hearing his adopted dad openly ask if the director is simping for the girl. Caught lacking, the officer loses his tough guy act and is spooked to get hit with the exact same question as before. Analyzing the play, the kid realizes his bastard son's status gives him a massive buff in reading the leader. Feeling a sting in his chest, the boy internally admits he spent his whole life wishing for a real family too. With that, the strategist switches tactics and loudly announces he totally gets his dad's vibe. During a quick pause, the young guy wonders if he overacted the drama in front of the military guys. The director bows his head apologizing for the disrespect, while the MC happily concludes his reaction was a massive W. Right then, a blue system hologram pops up out of nowhere right in front of the kid, grabbing all his attention. The screen pings that a bunch of weird usernames just joined the global chat, leaving the boy totally mind-blown. He figured the other players would start unlocking the pro menus eventually, but thinks it's wild they all logged on at the same time. Reading the notification for a user named Home Defender, the young guy guesses the blocked forum troll is also online here. Super entertained by the chaos, the strategist welcomes the lobby while the angry rival demands to know where he is. With the chat panicking, the other users also start asking if everyone here got ice-guyed into the game's universe. Confirming the theory, a hyped fanboy screams that he's the MC's biggest simp, while another player cries about not being the only one suffering. Walking the mansion halls, the young guy processes the fact that all these survivors share the same cursed fate. The guy thinks it's insane that these people actually pulled up to the sketchy convenience store just because of his forum post. Smirking, he admits that watching all these clueless noobs freak out is honestly pretty hilarious. Knowing the hardcore rules of this server, he knows the low difficulty zones will be the first to get wiped when the chaos restarts. To even stand a chance against the absolute raid, the players need to migrate out of those weak starter zones ASAP. The huge issue is that most focus only on early game survival and get stuck in weak bases, ending up in a dead-end run. Trying to gauge the overall threat level, the MC drops that he's in the cola zone and asks the lobby to dox their locations. Without any suspicion, one of the noobs instantly replies he's stuck in the weird love zone. A second later, another user says they're in the beer region, as virtual icons start popping off on the chat screen. Answers keep flooding in, with survivors calling out the chicken zone and even the sketchy illicit substance area. The chat turns into a meme when a noob laughs at a guy for buying questionable powder at the store, only to be told it looked like normal flour. Back in his comfy room, the strategist notices the knife region is the only one missing, triggering a massive panic in the chat. The other players drop FS in the chat for the unlucky bro, knowing that hidden area is notoriously brutal. Judging by the tone of a reply about being in the cigarette area, the MC confirms the blocked guy is in a super easy zone. Hoping his rival doesn't catch an early game over, the young guy points out there's a very important VIP he still needs to meet alive. Demanding hard proof, the player in the dentist area asks if the lobby actually believes this insane zone. Super sus, he claps back at his teammate, asking why the unlucky guy in the hidden area won't just admit the truth. In the middle of the flame war, the MC notes that at least this dude has his guard up, unlike the rest of these total noobs. Trying to cool the beef, the fanboy demands respect and announces the chat admin is the literal creator of the original internet guides. The strategist figures leaking locations before the second disaster drops won't cause drama, since IRL PvP is impossible right now. Still on the defensive, the stubborn guy plays dumb and asks what the heck being in a safe area even means. The chat vets explode with emojis, absolutely amazed to confirm this guy is a level 1 noob on his very first run. Remembering the IRL street layout, the young guy recalls there was a clinic right next to the store where the crazy event happened. Slipping into his DMs, the MC declares the guy has to be in the candy zone because he's a total amateur. The noob goes dead silent, proving the kid perfectly guessed the easiest, most pathetic spawn on the server. Thanking the group for cooperating, the chat admin says he still needs to clear up one major detail. In his head, he already suspected the fast system unlock was directly tied to looting a rare item. Cutting to the chase, he drops the big question in chat, asking if anyone snagged a drop made from meteor rock. Rapidly, people start confirming, ranging from shiny earrings to a military pistol fully crafted from space rock. The stubborn noob finally caves, saying he saw some shady guy who looked like a boss touch a really weird rock. The guy from the sketchy area gets curious and asks if this voice chat is seriously linked to the space rocks on the map. Sitting on the edge of his bed, the MC reads the player's message claiming he has 0 op artifacts in his inventory. Connecting the dots, the young guy realizes some people just had to bump into a shard to unlock the hologram UI. Since he figured physical contact was the main trigger, he fires off another question asking if the squad ran into any other real players. The replies are all over the place. Some teamed up, some are running whole guilds, and some haven't seen a single soul. Evaluating the data from the hyped lobby, the boy spots a sus pattern involving the chicken and love zones. Even with a bunch of survivors running around those areas, only one party leader managed to unlock the comms panel. With his eyes glued to the blue screen, he accurately guesses the system requires one more hidden trigger besides just touching the space rocks. After the massive lore hunting session, the kid stretches and accepts he needs more time to decode all the secrets. Before logging off, the strategist promises to carry anyone who DMs him, but gets hit with a joke about falling asleep in class tomorrow. A few days after that massive info dump, a heated argument rocks the military base's main executive room. A member of the rival faction fires the first shot, demanding to know if they've found the lost kid of the massive deserter yet. The commander's defender fires back with the same energy, calling it massive disrespect to treat a combat MVP with so much toxicity. Jumping out of his chair in a rage, the hater refuses to call a woman who rage quit her post and vanished a hero. Before the insult slides, a loud bang hits the table as a third officer threatens anyone who dares to trash her legacy. It all starts in the meeting room, with the pro-Daphne faction boss claiming everyone lost their minds yelling in front of the commander. Hearing the chaos, the Lord steps in smoothly, saying he's also pretty curious about this whole drama. He asks straight up if the council really just sees that woman as a deserter who ditched her duty. On the flip side, he asks if they see her as a genuine hero of the base. Pulling a wild pivot, the leader asks his son to answer this super toxic question. The heavy door swings open right then, with the Lord asking permission to introduce the kid to the officers. As the boy walks in, system prompts confirm his title's friendly buff just hit every single person in the room. Keeping his posture flawless, the strategist formally introduces himself as the commander's son. Internally, he admits he expected some side-eye but didn't think the hate would be this heavy. Walking on the rug, he thinks it's insane his adopted dad just threw him straight into this lion's den. The guy realizes this is the main war room, packed with all the top-tier VIPs in the region. Scanning the lobby, he notices half are simping for the current wife, while the rest fought alongside the leader's OG partner. Weighing the trap, the young guy figures calling the woman a deserter will make the vets instantly hate him. But hyping her up as a hero destroys any chance of getting the rival faction on his side. Totally unfazed, he looks up and declares the real issue here isn't her past as a hero or a quitter. The boy states the only thing that matters right now is the fact that the Lord is his actual dad. Tilted by the disrespect, the rival boss slams the table, claiming power struggles should be settled with raw strength. He flames the kid, asking how a random with no background has the guts to talk so much trash in here. Demanding the guards grab the intruder immediately, the guy gets interrupted by a sudden gunshot that completely silences the room. The officer with glasses lowers his smoking gun and asks if the young master is okay after the mess. Justifying his crazy move, the director claims he had to step in because he was terrified the kid might get hurt. The strategist looks back, still processing the absolute chaos that just went down right in front of him. Showing zero panic, he just complains that the drip the commander gave him got dirty. The shooter watches the boy's icy reaction super closely. After that disastrous event, the big executive meeting gets totally cancelled. Watching from afar, the base boss analyzes his new successor's rock-solid vibe. He thinks it's wild that someone just caught a game over in there and the kid didn't even blink. Walking down the halls, the leader tells the director he knew the kid was big brain, but didn't expect him to be this bold. Looking for a second opinion, the Lord asks what the officer thought of the boy during boot camp. The gray-haired guy admits he already thought the kid was built different, but he completely shattered expectations. The instructor reports the kid memorized all the formal etiquette rules for VIP events with zero effort. Plus, he downloaded the military structure in a flash and paid crazy attention to the boss's wife's lore. Blown away, the officer points out the kid's memory and focus are totally cracked for his age. But the most terrifying part of all was his aim at the shooting range. The director admits he saw the talent IRL but still has a hard time believing it. During class, the boy's stance and breathing with the gun were a one-to-one match with a veteran's sweat. Looking away innocently, the kid asked if he shot right, swearing it was his very first time. The system shows he just popped the magic shooter title, justifying internally that it really was his first time using this tiny hitbox. Getting back to the report, the instructor explains any basic noob can hit a normal target. But the insane skill he flexed proves the young guy has a terrifying natural buff for combat. The officer reminds the commander that god-tier aim is mandatory to protect the safe zone. You literally have to hit the giant beast's cores with perfect precision to make them drop. Keeping that in mind, the director declares the kid is going to be a hard carry for future raid battles. Catching himself, he realizes he's basically suggesting sending the boss's kid to the absolute front lines. The commander listens closely and just nods mysteriously at his subordinate's review. The Lord stares down the hallway, thinking about the dark endgame waiting for the region. Back in his room, the boy brainstorms the next phases of his massive master plan. Outside, the snow keeps dumping hard on the frozen roofs of the giant military base. In the yard, the soldiers start spilling the tea about the crazy tragedy that went down in the executive room. One mentions the director packed up a superior officer, wondering if the shooter is gonna catch a heavy ban for insubordination. Then another guard corrects the lore, revealing the victim flamed the Lord's son first, totally changing the vibe. Walking next to the boy, the director analyzes the icy reaction he had to all that chaos. The officer remembers the kid's excuse, apologizing for the scare and wonders how he only cared about his fit. Even though he thinks the behavior screams total psycho, the man feels like that isn't the whole truth. He warns that rumors about the young heir's toxic behavior are already going viral across the zone. Staring at the boy's back, the instructor brings up the gossip about the monthly pizza party for the child soldiers. In silence, he theorizes the kid is just manipulating the noobs to build a loyal guild, proving he's a massive threat. The strategist hits back with sarcasm, agreeing that framing it like that definitely makes him sound like a heartless villain. With slow footsteps echoing on the stone floor, the glasses guy decides to clear up a question that's been bugging him. Pointing his gun straight at the young guy, the officer demands the real lore behind that gunshot in the room. Totally chill about the threat, the kid cuts the officer off, accusing him of staging that whole drama on purpose. The man slightly lowers the gun, looking shook that he got exposed so fast. Holstering his weapon, the director asks the kid to unpack exactly what he's trying to say. Flashing a confident smirk, the strategist says their political play was way too obvious to miss. He explains the Lord desperately wanted to permanently ban those who disrespected his old flame's legacy. As the top admin of the region, the commander had to stay neutral so he wouldn't trigger a server-wide riot. However, the real heir spawning at the perfect time gave the leader the ultimate excuse to act for the family. The hidden message of that gunshot was crystal clear: anyone who flames the sun gets a permanent game over. The kid quickly guesses the glasses guy, and the boss already scripted this whole bloodbath before the meeting even started. The secret mission was to permanently mute the first council member who acted toxic near the kid, making an example out of them. So the instructor's fake rogue move buried any future protests about the bastard's son joining the base. Impressed by the big brain play, the director reminds him he's still in the rival faction, and asks if the kid isn't trusting him way too fast. Walking backward, the boy admits his spawn lore is going to be a massive headache for the current wife's simps. But he makes sure to flex that he's also the boss's son and plans to hard commit to his promise. Stepping into the sunlight hitting the hall, the boy declares with absolute certainty that he's going to be the undisputed ultimate successor of this military base. The commander stares at his wife, promising to finally grant her freedom. Far from there, the director leaks to the kid that the only thing he actually trusts are the boss's real feelings for his old flame. Remembering the meeting drama, the officer hypes up the kid's god-tier political instincts. He asks about the plan to dine with the child soldiers every month, noticing the young guy is acting shy about it. When the instructor asks if there's some hidden quest behind it, the strategist notes the man showed interest first. Knowing he just farmed some extra rep, the kid says he was thinking about cooking the entire feast solo. The glasses guy agrees that cooking is a classic bulletproof strat to farm loyalty fast. The MC knows he doesn't need these kids to be mindless bots, since forced teaming never lasts in this server. So his big master plan is to slowly prove he's actually carrying the squad. That way, when the real apocalyptic raid drops again, the army of noobs will follow his calls blindly. Interrupting the kids' brainstorming, the director turns and pulls a new topic. He offers to help set it up, asking if he should pick the menu or play support in the kitchen. The boy bluntly replies he needs help grinding for loot, totally confusing the officer. With a confident smirk, the heir makes it clear that going on a hunt is the real tutorial step. Doubling down, he summons the instructor to start this ingredient run in the frozen wild. Trudging through the deep snow outside the safe zone, the director complains this idea is totally unhinged. He thinks it's insane they're exploring a high-level danger zone carrying just a basic firearm. Ignoring the whining, the kid tells the man to pipe down, claiming it's just a casual farming run with zero issues. When the young guy trolls him asking if he's scared, the man claps back instantly that the heir literally cannot afford to take damage. The real reason he's sweating is knowing the base lord will give him a tragic game over if the kid comes back with even a scratch. Sighing heavily, the officer admits he still can't find the logic in this freezing field trip. The strategist defends his move, saying the food hits way different when the chef grinds for the drops himself. The glasses guy agrees with the wholesome lore, but points out there's a massive glitch in the plan. Totally panicked, he yells that the kid has literally never hunted before, and any wipe here is going straight on his record. Playing his trump card, the guy blames it on the commander's genetics, leaving the officer tilted by the cheap excuse. To troll him harder, the young guy claims he's hunted bare-handed, and tells the instructor to hide behind him if he's scared of the mobs. In his head, the boy admits a solo run would be way faster, but he has a solid reason for dragging the grumpy boomer along. He needs the instructor to be a live witness when he starts soloing massive raid bosses in the future. Right then, a tiny horned rabbit crosses their path, the perfect low-level mob to start the grind. But the kid surprises him by pulling a knife, saying the rabbit isn't the main target, confusing his escort even more. With zero hesitation, the boy slices his own palm with the blade, absolutely terrifying the instructor. Equipping the rifle right after, he tells the officer to stay quiet so they don't scare off the real loot with all the yelling. Staring into the dark woods, the young guy warns in a dead serious tone that the giant mob is already pulling up. Heavy footsteps shatter the snowy silence, revealing massive hooves breaking through the trees. The director is shook as he recognizes the cursed giant boar boss stepping out of the fog. The man frantically asks why this wild beast spawned here, since they usually dodge player aggro completely. Thinking it's a hostile variant, the officer begs to retreat, but the strategist tells him to just chill. Checking the system UI, the kid confirms the mob is naturally cowardly and only farms tiny animals to avoid risks. The instructor figures the blood was bait, but asks why they didn't just use the dead rabbit to set the trap. Locked onto the scope, the kid explains the beast's insane scent stats would make it dip if it smelled any gunpowder. Even though he's impressed by the big brain play, the man orders the boy to fall back, since being understaffed puts them at a huge disadvantage. Ignoring the boomer's warning, the MC quietly pops his legacy magic shooter buff through the panel. Catching the fresh scent of the injury, the giant boar gets hyped and charges furiously at the dude. Exactly as it lunges, a single glowing shot slices through the freezing wind straight at the beast. With the gun still smoking, the young guy smirks, riding the adrenaline high after that flawless first blood. The perfect crit pierces the monster's natural armor, guaranteeing the hunt ends in a split second. The military instructor watches the whole insane clip completely paralyzed and speechless. Lowering the rifle barrel casually, the kid asks Super Chill if this beast is enough for the main course. Hours later, the sun hits the giant military base building, where the promised pizza party is finally going down. Through the main doors, the squad of invited child soldiers enters the room looking super sus. A massive table loaded with food is waiting, while the host politely thanks everyone for pulling up. Wearing a basic apron, the heir announces he farmed a ton of premium meat and hopes to vibe with the crew from here on out. The initial weirdness vanishes instantly when the starving kids rush the hot trays packed with actual food. Away from the main table, the blonde kid and the redhead fanboy are working the grills, complaining that their party leader literally can't taste anything. The strategist flips the stakes, listening to his two unlucky partners whine like usual. Out of nowhere, a weird dude with dark red hair pops up, bowing way too hard to greet the trio. Being super loud and extra, the new guy drops a cursed nickname and tries to force an instant friendship with the redhead fanb. The simp freaks out over the sudden closeness and yells at the leader for not drafting this weirdo into the military too. The blonde jumps into the flame war, pointing out the noob barely knows how to hold a gun in a server this hardcore. Sweating, the weirdo stammers that he has zero clue how to shoot, getting hit with the angry accusation that he's a player. The strategist instantly scolds the noob, telling him to shut his mouth before a guard hears the word player. Sighing in relief that they didn't get caught, the MC tells them to start dropping crucial lore about the region. The weird guy proudly brags he scored a minion slot in the boss's castle, and is getting totally spoiled by the adult NPCs. When the leader asks if he snagged any premium leaks in the halls, the noob's look suddenly gets dead serious. Building insane suspense, the chatterbox leaks that one of the top-tier generals is having a secret affair. Annoyed by the garbage intel, the strategist just ignores the kid and asks the blonde about the upcoming war. The recruit claims there's a huge chance the child squads will get sent straight to the front lines on the next raid. Analyzing the meta, the MC calculates the attack will only drop when the snow melts, giving everyone precious time to grind gear. Focused on the main quest, he asks if the redhead partner found anything important, killing the war chat instantly. Holding the star gem he looted from the grave, the leader orders the two minions to touch the piece for a quick test. But he quickly notices absolutely nothing happens to the guys, figuring the magic unlock trigger completely bricked here. He tells the squad he unlocked his virtual buffs with that ring, and it must be the master key in all the other safe zones too. Seeing his allies' reactions, the boy figures the global chat perk is exclusive to just one survivor per region. The blonde tweaks out over the idea of getting left behind without magic hacks, but the strategist tells him to lower his volume right now. To chill them out, the leader explains the system only unlocked basic menus, and the global chat is the only feature that actually matters for the endgame. The MC thinks about how there are currently only 8 active users in the public voice channel. This obviously means there are still other players hiding out in the rest of the map's zones. With that in mind, he starts cooking up his next moves for this server. The boy instantly wonders where the imposter is camping, while the blonde asks why the leader is suddenly staring a hole into him. Since everyone is gatekeeping their stats, the strategist plans to drop his real identity soon to farm perks and favors. Trying to defend himself, the blonde recruit argues that toxic dude would never tell the truth, reminding him he was the first to talk. Pointing at the feast, the redhead fanboy notes everyone is eating normally, proving there are 0 hidden players left in the room. Flipping the meat on the grill, The leader agrees the three of them are 100% the only isolated survivors in the Kola zone. But he takes a tense pause and admits he has a totally unhinged theory about the lore of this military base. Skipping the fluff, the boy drops the suspicion that the famous dead mom might have actually been an IRL player. The two minions are absolutely shook hearing that the base's legendary MVP was a gamer just like them. The young guy admits he isn't totally sure but guesses she must have been Asian too, since all the NPCs think they look like twins. Right then, he remembers the current lord's wife's design, noticing she shares crazy similar traits with the OG woman. Plus, the girl was known as the ultimate war hero, leaving the blonde partner super curious about the lore drop. The redhead fanboy connects the dots immediately, remembering that specific title was an exclusive player achievement and was never used by NPCs. The strategist warns that the ultimate piece of evidence to prove his massive theory hasn't even dropped yet. Thinking back to his chat with the Lord, he leaks that the girl also had the exact same instant auto-heal hacks as they do. With a hyped smirk, the leader declares there's a massive hidden Easter egg here, and he can barely wait for the brutal war to drop. Totally horrified, the two allies freak out, begging the guy to chill and wipe that creepy smile off his face. Out of nowhere, the weird noob slides in trying to fix the vibe, swearing the woman's lore wasn't the only crazy plot twist in the zone. Switching focus, the MC goes back to analyzing the mysterious glowing ring he jacked from the old hero's grave. Back in the original virtual game, that tiny piece of jewelry was purely cosmetic and had zero actual use. However, checking the system, the young guy sees the magic item is spamming the friendship buff on nearby targets non-stop. Chilling in his dark room, the heir realizes the item radiates a super cozy warmth whenever the commander pulls up. But the second the man leaves, the rock gets freezing cold, almost like it's super depressed about him dipping. Reading the patch notes, he is certain this affection buff only works to mess with how local NPCs perceive him. Staring at the intense glow of the rock, the boy suspects the woman's actual consciousness might be trapped inside it. Getting hit with a heavy wave of nostalgia, he wonders who could possibly code such a depressing emotion artificially. Squeezing the ring, a new, way more terrifying theory starts taking over his strategic brainstorming. Back in the yard, he warns his partners that the reality of this server is proving to be way different than what they knew from the game. The blonde absolutely loses it, asking if all the old strats the guy cooked up are going to be pure garbage now. Shooting that down fast, the leader reminds him the guides still work, and whoever fails the quests is getting a permanent ban. The noob thinks it's insanely weird that only this specific hero's lore got modded by the system settings. Holding a bottle of soda, the MC deduces that if the girl was a real person, someone got ice-guyed here way before they did. The recruit shakes with fear as he sees the notifications spamming, and the server's overall difficulty spiking out of control. Screaming nervously, the partner begs them to just focus on stopping the world from ending, instead of hunting massive lore secrets. Staying locked in, the heir explains the main quest is still securing a slot in the massive armed raid against the monsters. He doubles down that just surviving this first strike will drop a juicy new system buff. While the cowardly recruit tries to dump his raid slot onto the hyped noob, the leader decides to keep the redhead fanboy out of the crossfire. Calculating the risks of the upcoming war, the strategist figures he needs to leave at least one healthy ally back at the fort. Even while setting up this safety net, he flashes a proud smirk, swearing he absolutely won't throw this fight. Back inside the fancy bedroom, the blonde complains about the room swap, thinking the guy just wanted to flex his premium lifestyle. Ignoring his teammate being extra, the young master casually picks up a metal dessert fork. The partners just stare at the cookie tray, having zero clue how to use that fancy silverware. Casually eating the sweet, the leader tells them to pay super close attention to the physical act of eating right now. Sitting on the edge of the massive bed, the guy remembers he wanted to group up the VIPs of both rival factions without having to summon them individually. With an absolutely dark look, he declares the best way to force this massive lobby is to trigger an absolute riot across the entire base. The MC logged in as Dopamine Junkie sighs an annoyance at a certain user spamming his screen. Using the chat, he asks if the stubborn guy had ever actually added someone as a friend in the system before. Right after he trolls him, asking if the dude didn't just click accept all twice like a total bot. On the other end of the chat, the blocked guy swears he's going to zero to death him as soon as he escapes that cursed zone. Finding all this rage hilarious, the strategist thinks the rival is way too easy to manipulate from a distance. But he starts wondering how the fake heir at the military base knew about his chat history with this salty dude. Checking if his account got hacked, he reads his partner's reply saying he only ever gave one-word answers to the faker. The leader asks if the imposter's vibe seemed sus, but the guy says the dude was always super weird by default. Even with that gray area, the partner swears 100% that the imposter is camping in the high-tech unicorn area. Not trusting his word that easily, the young guy demands hard proof for this random intel drop. The user then leaks that he traded items with the dude, and the payment was made entirely in pure gold bars. Processing this premium intel, the strategist realizes how insanely heavy that currency is in a totally wiped-out world. Because in a server where basic loot is super rare, that scientist region was the only known glitch in the Matrix. Obsessed with absolute security, the locals there built their whole district in the sky, developing unbeatable tech. With this unique self-sustaining loop, the OG Earth's ecosystem is probably still untouched only in that floating base. Putting all these random pieces together, the imposter camping in the unicorn area becomes an absolute fact for the boy. When his teammate asks if he's gonna go scout it, the guy calmly says he's not doing anything about it right now. His master strat is to let the faker clear the mobs, and then jack all his loot when he raids the region later. Clueless about this blind confidence, the ally warns that the enemy knows the perfect routes and runs the most heavily buffed zone of all. Hearing the desperate warning, the young master just lets out a troll laugh while staring at the tiny system screen. He reminds his partner that every survivor on the server is literally just following the guides he built from scratch. Super proud of his own meta, he thinks it's wild the guy is acting like pulling a W here is impossible. The dude gets spooked that his cowardly playstyle got exposed, but the leader reveals he was the user who searched his tutorials the most. Getting totally embarrassed by the callout, the partner grumbles, trying to figure out the strategist's sudden mood swing. Weighing the risks coldly, the kid calculates his actual win rate against the fake heir is hovering around 60% right now. Even with all his legacy magic buffs, the brutal tech gap between the zones is literally impossible to ignore. Killing the boring chat, he tells the ally to ping him if the imposter sends a message, thinking the salty guy's sudden obedience is kinda weird. Back in the quiet of the luxury room, the leader locks his eyes back onto the new messages flashing on the floating panel. Right then, the redhead fanboy sends a DM warning that the dude from the secret knife area is acting like a stand-in for the real hero. Using this tiny window in the chat, the anxious partner begs to tag along on the future raid into the flying territory. The fanboy admits he wants to ride the op idol's coattails, getting a promise that his request will be considered later. Completely flipping the topic, the young guy orders the ally to instantly check if the invisible wall between regions is actually gone. Looking at the map UI, he knows the test zone is right next to the brutal repression area. If that basic spawn protection has actually dropped, the noob survivors trapped in the weak zones are going to get absolutely farmed. Staring at the dark system screen, the strategist notices the contact mysteriously ghosted without dropping a single new reply. Dropping his head on the soft pillow, he decides he doesn't care about the invaders, since he's not planning to catch a game over for anyone. By the next morning, the heavy snow is still dumping on the stone roofs of the military base, while the daily grind restarts. The heavy thuds of tactical boots sink into the freezing white ground during the small scout squad's long walk. Complaining non-stop, the blonde recruit begs to be put on those elite raid missions, totally over the boring barrack routine. The base director announces the practical test for rations and detecting rocks outside the safe zone, making the air sigh from pure boredom. The boy thinks the instructor's friendly dad smile at the crying blonde is super weird, remembering his partner is already 20 years old IRL. Catching this silent side-eye from a distance, the recruit pouts, clearly not vibing with the older officer's review. Still shaking from the cold, the soldier asks if it's actually safe for them to leave the base solo, getting reassured the field trip will be super quick. The glasses guy leaks that the guards spotted a massive, low HP beast early this morning, making the hunt a total breeze for the squad. If the heir's cracked skills were as legit as the rumors said, the instructor fully trusted they'd handle the quest easily. Validating the boomer's high hopes, the young guy just nods coldly while loading his weapon with heavy combat rounds. Staring at a sketchy package in his hand, the blonde kid asks if these star-shaped candies are seriously supposed to be military rations. The officer proudly explains the food is min-maxed for stats despite tasting like garbage, asking if the soldier knows any healing spells. Hanging onto a shred of hope, the recruit claims he could even heal other players if his mana stacking works right, completely catching the strategist off guard. Not getting why his unlucky partner is staring at him with such awe, the blonde boy is weirded out by the leader's sudden proud smirk. Giving him a light pat on the back, the boy praises the minion's useful level up, thinking about how op it would be to have a top-tier medic on his roster. Even though he's clueless about the kid's toxic master plans, the soldier just looks away, feeling like his grind is about to double from here on out. Trekking a bit further into the freezing, creepy woods, the trio finally spots the massive beast with spiky scales knocked out on the path. Scanning the colossal raid boss super carefully, the recruit quickly points to a deep gash on the huge monster's right side. Looking at how the creature is totally code, the squad calculates its base defense based on how its heavy front legs are positioned. Throwing these crucial anatomy clues together, the strategist lines up his rifle, calling out that the beast's vital core is hidden in its left abdomen. Without losing focus for a single frame, the glowing bullet rips through the air in a flash, breaking the silence of the falling snow. The director watches the flawless crit completely mind-blown, confirming the boy perfectly sniped the hidden weak spot through the heavy armor. Super hyped about the clean wipe, the officer orders the recruit to pop the flare to call the recovery team and haul the premium loot back. Lowering his gun super smoothly, the air points out that this efficiency saves crucial ammo and keeps the useful scales intact for the military base. Flashing a genuine, relieved smile, the instructor confirms the boy inherited the hero's true talent, leaving the young guy totally ghost-pale and shook. The man confesses his old theories and now celebrates the discovery like crazy, while the leader questions the weird officer's sanity. Sketched out by this over-the-top hype in the middle of nowhere, the boy suggests they fall back to the base immediately just to be safe. Before he can even finish his warning, a screeching sound tearing through the sky grabs his attention, making him look straight up at the freezing clouds. Ripping through the gray sky in a high-tech flying mount, a random dude suddenly spawns, demanding the blonde recruit's attention ASAP. The glowing, futuristic ride touches down on the soft ground super smoothly, kicking up a thick wall of snow near the small scout squad. Seeing the intruder hop off the machine, the minion's eyes bug out as he recognizes the newcomer's face, taking a step back, terrified of the random visit. Skipping all the formal intros, the invader drops the strategist's handle loud and clear, locking his intense eyes right on him. The intruder rocks messy hair and a sharp, almost predator-like glare, wearing an insanely clean fit that heavily clashes with the dirt of this ruined server. His ghost-pale skin perfectly matches his flawless lab coat, showing off someone who definitely wasn't struggling with basic resource drops. For anyone who actually knew the survival game meta, that sharp face was iconic and caused pure terror for the most sweatiest veterans on the server. Absolutely terrified by the menacing sight, the blonde partner cowers behind the director, begging for instant protection from the sketchy newcomer. Jumping to the front line fast, the base officer tells his ally to hold for his calls without making a single wrong move. Ignoring the heavy aggro from the armed NPCs, the slick invader sprints through the snow, desperately yelling to confirm the guide creator's real identity. The second the guy grabs the boy's arm with a crazy grip, the scared partner yells from a distance that he's mixing up his targets dangerously. Locked onto the redhead, the guy in the lab coat mocks him, asking how the fanboy couldn't even recognize his own idol standing right there. Checking out the guy's silhouette against the light, the MC instantly figures out this dude took over the role of the famous junkie player. The heavy tension in the air makes the boy stare at the newcomer super sus, hyper-focusing on every possible detail. Acting totally casual, the invader pulls off his gloves, saying they just need to open the profile UI to kill the mystery. He casually brings up the system's hologram panel, making it obvious everyone's real identity is about to get leaked fast. But the strategist hesitates, noticing something is incredibly glitched and out of place in this bizarre setup. Scanning the guy's height, the boy realizes the dude is the exact same height he used to be IRL. The man's boss-level posture makes the heir seriously question why he's the only one who kept his adult hitbox in the game. Stopping next to the blonde kid, the adult points his finger and asks in a troll tone if the recruit finally recognizes him, dropping his old username. With a smirk, the invader proudly claims the boy was way faster at figuring out who he really was. This massive flex shatters the silence in the yard, absolutely jump-scaring everyone in the area. Totally surrounded, the guy in the lab coat sarcastically asks why all these guns are suddenly aimed at him. Trying to chill the lobby, he swears super cynically that he didn't pull up to grief anyone in the squad. Not falling for the outsider's cap, the heir raises his rifle, aiming with perfect precision, and mutters how annoying this yapping is. Looking at the aimed gun, the man points out the boy is too tilted to even check the basic system menu. Annoyed by the call-out, the strategist internally admits the enemy is right about him stalling on checking the profile. Accepting he can't dodge it, he pops the hologram and is shook to confirm the stats list the guy as the dopamine junkie. Completely speechless at the screen, the boy can't process how this dude managed to steal his god-tier username. The creepiest part for the boy is seeing the official system title, also flexing the exact same famous handle perfectly. Across the clearing, the adult demands an answer about the stat check, while the heir tries to process that cursed title existing. Cutting the fluff, the MC demands to know how the faker managed to pull off that glitch in the game's code. With laser focus, he demands the secret behind the name, but the outsider dodges the question, saying it's too early for lore drops. Zero patience for mind games, the boy keeps his weapon up, warning he needs to limit test a major theory before keeping the chat going. Remembering how ruthless the real player was, the heir finds it super sus that the invader is wandering around with trash-tier teammates. Analyzing the guy's moves, the boy suspects the dude is overacting way too hard to pull off playing the strategist. Suddenly, the blonde recruit snaps his fingers looking like a genius, thinking he just cracked the ultimate mystery of the situation. Being super dramatic, the ally screams in outrage, demanding to know why the intruder is the only one rocking an adult body. The young guy just glares at his partner in disappointment, thinking it's wild the minion only noticed that obvious detail just now. Agreeing with the heir, the white-haired man declares the blonde is way too low IQ to be a useful carry. Adjusting his fit coldly, the invader decides it'd be way better to just permanently ban the blonde kid from the server. Running on pure tactical instinct, the strategist instantly clicks off his heavy rifle's safety to defend his zone. Without skipping a beat, the invader fires back instantly, dropping a heavy warning shot with his hand cannon. The blonde kid totally loses it, grabbing the boy and calling him unhinged for trying to aggro a fully geared player like that. The deflected bullet drops silently into the soft snow, proving the enemy's defense is ridiculously tanky. Wrapped in a high-tech hologram shield, the adult proves he can't be dropped by standard regional weapons. Checking out the light barrier, the lab coat guy praises the boy's warning shot, admitting he would have made the exact same play. Happy with the stat check, the invader hops onto his flying mount and announces the verification is done, leaving the heir confused. Gripping his rifle tight, the boy hears the outsider say he just wanted to see if his clone was leveling up correctly. Seething with rage through the scope, the boy admits he'd love to delete that guy right here, but the tech barrier is blocking it. Standing on his futuristic board, the adult pretends to suddenly remember a huge detail before dipping. Pointing the barrel of his pistol, he coldly announces he still owes the noob a special little gift. The blonde is totally paralyzed with fear, realizing the enemy's gun is tracking right towards them. With lightning reflexes, the heir shoves his partner aside the exact millisecond the gunshot booms through the forest. Taking the sudden impact, the boy ends up taking the direct shot to his shoulder, making the minion scream in absolute terror at the sight. From high up on his ride, the faker watches his attack land with a completely deadpan expression. Checking the boy's injury, the invader mutters in disappointment that the kid really isn't on his level. While the guy dips into the cloudy sky, the redhead partner screams his lungs out, calling for his injured young master. The military director moves fast, relieved to see the bullet didn't clip any of the heir's critical hitboxes. Taking charge, the officer orders the recruit to watch the treeline for mob aggro while he goes for heals, and the kid obeys. Feeling the throbbing pain in his shoulder, the strategist grunts quietly while the blonde ally holds him down tight. Bawling, the recruit screams that the fake dopamine junkie is a literal maniac, forcing the boy to remind him he hasn't logged out yet. Super emotional, the blonde asks why the heir tanked a bullet to protect a useless scrub like him. Keeping his face completely deadpan, the MC throws the question back, telling the minion to use his brain and guess. Holding up the magic ration in his good hand, the boy gives a direct order for the ally to cast his healing spell right now. The blonde goes into pure shock, realizing the guy purposely tanked a bullet just to limit test his medical skills in a live fight. Outraged by this icy, calculated move, the recruit shakes his partner, calling him an absolute psycho for pulling this crazy stunt. Ignoring his scared teammate's meltdown, the heir just pushes the ration closer, demanding the heal starts immediately. Cashing in the favor for saving the kid's life, the strategist announces he needs to drop a massive lore confession. Waving his fingers, he tells the blonde to lean in close to hear the secret. After catching the whispered words, the recruit's eyes bug out in shock, questioning his savior's true identity. Facing the freakout, the strategist keeps a chill look, waiting for his partner to finish processing the insane leak. The blonde screams the player's online handle at max volume, tilted about getting trolled the whole time and demanding the late reveal. Clenching his bleeding shoulder, the heir grumbles that the cowardly minion would have never partied up early on if he knew the truth. The healing buff starts glowing on the wound, but the young guy tells him to cancel the spell so the military officer doesn't get sus about a 100 heal. Still salty about the cap, the ally complains that the redhead fanboy already knew the god-tier secret while he kept looking like a clown. The boy justifies it by saying the redhead has a spy, while the blonde angrily asks what people even gain by copying the leader. Analyzing the meta seriously, the MC warns that the adult faker is infinitely more of a threat than the crying brat from before. Pulling up the system panel, he reveals the invader unlocked global comms and used his fake name to manipulate the lobby. But the massive red flag is that the guy physically crossing over proves the invisible walls locking the game zones are totally gone. The leader figures they'll need to live test that later, but states the biggest hazard is the enemy having maxed out physical stats. Trying to brainstorm, the recruit asks if the dude used the zone's op tech to speedrun his own body's growth. The heir shoots that down instantly, looking at the dark spot on his hand and stating there's way deeper lore behind it. Looking super stressed, he admits he currently has zero clue what that dark secret actually is. Constantly thinking, the boy finds it while the imposter is stealing his identity, but feels like the outsider is bizarrely similar to him. He gets tilted remembering the guy's taunt about checking his leveling progress, feeling the rage spike just thinking about that flex. Sprinting through the snow crying, the fanboy rushes over to announce the rescue squad is finally pulling up. With his partner still holding him on the ground, the heir just watches his ally panic without showing much emotion. Whispering to the recruit, the strategist says they'll finish the heavy lore chat later when they're safe. Right then, the leader orders everyone to keep their mouths shut about the shootout, telling the fan to only focus on the military patrols. Back inside the premium limits of the base, the guards start gossiping about the search team's weird return. The soldiers are mind-blown by the local leader's icy vibe, noting he didn't even flinch seeing his own kid messed up. Agreeing with the iron-blooded commander title, the boy mentally thanks RNG for having the system heal. Locked in his dark room, the director rages, demanding to know who had the guts to hunt the boy like that. Staring out the window, the young master claims he doesn't know the shooter's tag, picking his words super carefully. Keeping a super chill look, he admits he used to know the guy back in the day but has zero clue now. The glasses guy connects the dots instantly, guessing the shooter is someone from before the time regression. In his head, the boy knows the director leaked everything to the commander, including him using the word player in Korean. To secure the W without having to grind the academy, the strategist knows his secret has to stay totally hidden. Thinking about the flying enemy, the boy decides he needs to immediately wipe any suspicion from the officer. Catching the perfect opening, he makes up that a brand new player must have spawned, shifting the aggro. Buying the massive cap, the director thinks it over and agrees the kid's theory checks out. The system flashes a persuasion success, making the MC sigh in relief for finessing the guy so easily. But the chill vibe dies when the officer bluntly announces the heir is getting shipped to the military academy anyway. Backing up his call, the man says the kid's tiny hitbox is to blame for the damage, totally ignoring the boy's magic auto-heal. Giving the kid a tense pat on the head, the instructor warns that one single misplay will cost him his life, just like his mom. Turning his back, the officer admits they're on a timer and promises he won't make him grind the full 6 years of training. The only catch is he has to get used to his hitbox before the next raid, securing an official rank without getting flamed by haters. Getting the political meta behind it, the young guy accepts the academy stay as just a basic recovery phase. Flexing max confidence, he swears he'll only stay at the facility until he can literally dodge a bullet, leaving the man speechless. Meanwhile, the vibe inside the classroom gets incredibly heavy when the news drops about the commander's kid pulling up. The upperclassmen are fuming, gossiping about how 6 recruits just got totally embarrassed in PvP by a random 10-year-old noob. Totally demoralized by the young guys regret dragging the class MVP into this massive mess. Keeping his posture solid, the cadet leader forgives his squad's throw, praising them for having the guts to frontline. At the front of the class, the glasses instructor demands absolute silence and declares the special training is top secret. Taking the orders quietly since it involves the scary heir, the students snap back to reality when the officer yells. With the whole class locked onto him, the director announces he has a super crucial update to drop. The cadet leader narrows his eyes, already sensing a massive raid-level test is about to get dumped on them. Standing next to the teacher, the young master introduces himself rocking the local uniform, ready to start his trial period. Scanning the toxic reception from the vets in the back, the strategist shows zero fear facing the challenge. In full panic mode, the students are internally screaming, terrified of becoming a meme for dealing with this scary noob. Before a riot breaks out, the officer doubles down that the boy proved his stats in the arena, silencing the haters with pure authority. Refusing to take the L, the top student politely stands up from his desk and asks to speak so he can confront the newcomer. Getting aggressive, the cadet agrees the defeated recruits were trash, but swears his own stats are way higher. The tension spikes in the room as the two prodigies lock eyes, giving off intense, pure rival energy. Totally unbothered by the public call-out, the heir takes the bait while keeping his expression completely cold and unreadable. Breaking the heavy silence, the boy trolls them, asking if this pathetic class seriously thinks they could ever drop his HP. Flexing his VIP status, he cools their hype by reminding them the Supreme Commander already validated his god-tier tactical skills. Taking a step forward, the boy offers to settle the beef right now to permanently mute the salty students. Dropping a direct challenge, the strategist demands a fresh PvP simulation against the top dog of the class. Hyped by the insane disrespect, the veteran leader accepts the 1v1 on the spot, calling the kid arrogant for his attitude. To balance the patch, the cadet suggests a team-based simulation, splitting the squads for a classic arena deathmatch. Slamming his hand on the desk, the young heir accepts the rules with absolutely zero hesitation. But the chill vibe instantly dies when the noob announces hell only run the match if they agree to one specific rule. Staring at the game pieces on the board, he declares he will auto-forfeit if even a single member of his squad gets eliminated. But to totally shock the vets, the strategist states they only need one single opponent to survive to take the W. Feeling the weight of that massive disrespect, the top student furiously asks if the kid is throwing the match just to humiliate them.